All right. Hello, everyone. We're going live here.
Look at us going live on all the things.
All the platforms. Hello, everyone. Well, welcome today. We are talking with Erin, and we are live on like all the channels. So we're going to be looking back and forth. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dr. Nicole Smith. I'm the founder of Antigravity Wellness, which is a perimenopause and menopausal clinic here in Washington and Oregon State. We specialize in hormone replacement, nutrition, fitness, all things health and wellness. I'm joined today by Erin Gallagher. I'm so excited to have her on.
I'm excited too.
She's part of our wellness group that we meet every month. We're a bunch of female entrepreneurs who are on similar missions to help improve the health and wellness of women and people in general as well. So I was so excited to have her on. She specializes in Akashic Records, which I really don't know anything about.
Perfect. That way we get to talk about it.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to learn.
I love that. I really haven't heard much about it, so I'm really excited. We wanted to talk about kind of the topic for today is the perimenopause and menopause transition, that midlife realm that we're in, and how do we navigate this and bring in our spirituality, because it is a very trying time. So how do we manage that in a way that is holistic? And I really love that we're going to be able to have this conversation today.
Me too. Because there's so many things that intersect with all of them. And I think that because in the entrepreneurial kind of world, we can get isolated. So it's nice to have these conversations, because then it's like, then we can talk about the intersection between spirituality and emotional with the physical aspects of, perimenopause, menopause, and other things. So it's cool to have that. Yeah.
So tell us more about your background, because I think it's super fascinating, your backstory and how you ended up here and why you ended up doing what you're doing now. Okay,
awesome. Yeah. So it's funny because I'm such a storyteller that like I always laugh that people ask me like, how are you? And I'm like, well, I was born in 1980. Like I have to tell the whole story. So I'm like, okay, where do I start? But the big kind of spiritual awakening that I had was I was a really high functioning addict for a long time. I was drinking a lot. I had used drugs at a very young age. And I moved around a lot. So I used drugs at a young age, and then I moved away. I grew up here in the Tri-Cities of Washington. And then I moved away to get away from all of it, and get healthy. But I really just replaced the drugs with alcohol. And then for another 13 years was a very high functioning alcoholic, had a really great jobs, had a really amazing career in film and television for 11 years. I worked in Los Angeles, Boston, and no one would have known, no one would have known. And then after it was like 17 years fully of like all of the addiction stuff, I finally had, it's funny because people are always like, oh, you had like a rock bottom. I'm like, which one? I had like 35 rock bottoms. It was just, someone's speaking.
That's good.
Yeah, it might be a TikTok thing. We've been hacked.
I'm not sure what happened with that. If you're going to turn that one off.
Yeah. You're turning off the TikTok feed?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think what happens is like if you go live and someone can like find a way in or something, it's like weird hacker stuff. But at least we only heard a little bit before it could get weird. This is what, when you're doing work like this and everything, it's like, you just kind of got to let it go, surrender it. Also full moon. So the crazies are out, but, so it was a lot of years of, kind of being out of body, not really being fully knowing what I was doing. And then after I stopped drinking, after a number of turning points, I call them turning points instead of rock bottoms because there were so many rock bottoms that I was like, I just felt done, and I had to make a change. So when I quit drinking, I call it like a semi-truck spiritual awakening. It was like, poof, everything hit me all at once. All the anxiety I had been running from, all of the depression I had been hiding from, all of my psychic and intuitive gifts that I had been hiding from, I was a very sensitive person, and child. And I think I put on the drugs and alcohol as a way to like numb the nerve endings.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I didn't have drugs or alcohol, I didn't have anything to numb the nerve endings with anymore. So it took me about 2 years of holistic healing, trying to figure out what was going on. I did, physical support with like, because I had a lot of inflammation, all this stuff from detoxing from so many years and everything. And so after I'd say about 2 or 3 years, I started getting into leadership programs and leadership circles. And in those programs, realized I'm going to take this work and like heal the world, help the world heal and support them and other people the same way that I needed the support when I needed it, So I created a business out of it. So my business is Erin Inspirational, and kind of use my name as a way to, as like a play on words to talk about like how I love to inspire people, with my own story, but people that are going through the same sort of rock bottom stuff to be able to know that that's not the end. That actually is the beginning. And so it's been really great. I've been doing this work for 10 years, and it's psychic stuff, it's spiritual stuff, it's emotional somatic work. So I use a lot of tools to be able to tap into the person's soul and their really gut instinct, and help them connect back to that.
I love that. I was actually just talking about that this morning on another one of my lives about being able to tap into your own intuition and how we are just really taught to suppress that.
Yep.
And I think that's why we end up reaching for those crutches, because it's those impermissible feelings that we have. And how do we deal with those as adults? Like as children, you had to like do certain things to fall in line, and but then you interpreted it a different way, and now you're an adult, and it's like it just gets so convoluted. So I love that you were able to take something that was detrimental, but was serving a purpose. And I try to remind people of that too. Like, you're doing this for a reason.
Yeah.
So we just need to figure out why. And then like, how do we replace that with something else is more constructive?
Exactly. Because then you want people to know it's okay. Like, it's not you're doing something wrong or bad. Yeah. You're surviving. We're human beings. We're like, our primal body's function is to survive. And so it's like, how do we be okay with that and do A, B, and C to move forward versus like, that was bad, this is good. There's no such thing, right? Yeah.
And I love that you talk about turning points as opposed to like, because so true. Like
we all have those moments of like, because we have a lot of moments where we, hit that bottom or do something stupid and we still keep doing it. It's like we learn a little bit, but we're still human. We're still ourselves, and that's how it goes.
Yeah. It seems to be that there has to be this pain line that you finally say it's enough. I'm done doing this. This hurts, but finding another way hurts less at this point.
Yeah. What is it? Choose your hard. Like,
yes.
Like, because people always, if I, pull back the curtain and start doing this work, all this stuff's going to come up. And I'm like, it's by not confronting it and pushing it down, it hurts the same. It's like, choose which hard you want. Yeah. And yeah, it's also a part of it is like when you do hit those turning points or those rock bottoms, it's like also a mindset, like an understanding. Like when I quit drinking, I had been an addict for so long that I was in such denial that I didn't even realize what it was that was, do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even like, oh, I hit a pain thing. It was like, oh, I need to change. It was like, I actually, after my DUI, I got a DUI and I had to go to alcohol classes. And in those classes, the teacher kept saying, just quit drinking for 1 week. Or he gave me like 1 week or 2 weeks. And I just found a reason every time, right? Oh, it's somebody's birthday. I'm going to Vegas. It's I'm Irish, so it's St. Patrick's Day. I got to drink the whiskey, right? And so finally, literally after months of him like haranguing me, I was like, I don't think I can. I had a realization internally. I don't think I can quit. That's why I'm saying no. Like, I really did believe that. I thought, oh, I can't because I'm doing this or a birthday party. And then after saying no so many times, like, so sometimes you need that, like, especially if drugs or alcohol or something else is concerned where you can't see it. You can't, the veil is so thick, you can't until someone kind of chips away at it or something like that. So that's another kind of piece of it too. Yeah. I feel like, yeah. Super
thick layer of protection.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, everybody has a different moment of clarity when it's like, wait, this isn't working for me anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that analogy because it can be so hard and people really beat themselves up that if you can't do it, then you're a failure. But it is a process, and it depends on how deep it goes, how much the addiction is, and all that to how long it's going to take you. And everyone is on their own path, and it's going to take them a different amount of time than somebody else. So
yeah. And the work I do too is like with the Akashic Records, basically what it is I'm able to not only see you as a person, but see your soul's reason for being here in this lifetime. Like, why did you come here? What did you come here to learn? And in some cases, people have a very like specific soul plan when they come in here, or a contract, so to say, that they're like, when I turn this age, I'm going to have this awakening, or around this time, because sometimes, and people out there know, sometimes the change is inexplicable. You don't even know why. It's like, I had this clarity, but I don't know why or how, or I had a spiritual awakening and it just happened at this time. Sometimes I'll see that like, oh, you set that up ahead of time. So when you came into this lifetime, it happened when it happened. And sometimes things are unexplainable because of that, because we have this like plan almost, and sometimes it's very specific. Sometimes it's really open. It's like, oh, in this lifetime, I'm going to experience what forgiveness and grief feels like. And we don't really know till we get here what things are going to happen in order to have us feel that grief and then move through that soul process. But that's kind of where the, intuitive, spiritual, Akashic work that I do comes into that whole situation,
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because that's like one of, life's things is, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, what is the purpose of all of this?
Yep.
So is this like a, because, okay, literally know nothing.
Yeah. It's like, how do we start?
Yeah, I know. And I love that too. When people ask me, they're like, I've never even heard of that term. And I'm like, where do I start?
I've been doing this 10 years. I would say 10 lifetimes too. Cause I'm like, I've been doing it for a long time, like not only in this lifetime, but, and I still say a different thing every time. I still don't know what I'm going to say. And this is why I do like 12-hour classes. Cause I'm like, if you ask me what the Akashic Records are, I could literally talk for 12 hours about what they are. Cause it's so much. It's just so much, but basically if you think about it as a human, like when we have an action or we do something, we get the equal and opposite reaction, right? When we do something in the world, something's going to come back because we're powerful. Whatever decision we make, something's going to play with that and make something happen based on that decision you make, right? So the Akashic field, or the energetic field that has those kind of like ricochets happen, is in my work called the Akashic field. So it's basically a energy field all around us. And so that energy field absorbs the decisions you make, your soul's path, why you chose to come here, all different beings and objects. Like, it has the kind of story of everyone's soul that is, and not only the decisions we make, but our will, like what we do when we're here, our beliefs, our emotions, and all of that gets kind of like absorbed into this field. And as an Akashic practitioner, I'm able to reach into that field for your specific Akashic. Like, I connect with different guides for each person. So each person has different Akashic guides called masters, teachers, and loved ones. And in this space, I'm able to connect to specifically, let's say, your masters, teachers, and loved ones about your soul path, why your soul chose to come to Earth at this time as Nicole. And sometimes, I think a lot of times when people hear Akashic Records and they've heard of it before, it's all associated with past lives. And I'm like, sometimes past lives are important, but in my experience of the Akashic Records, it's less about other experiences you had, more about you, because that's why people come to me. They want to know about what's going on with them. So if past life stuff does come up, it's usually has to do with what it's teaching you in this lifetime, because karmically lessons keep playing out until they get reconciled, so to say. So there's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the, Cliff's Notes version.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, and that helps to like kind of get a general conception of what it is. And I know that you really dive deep with your one-on-one clients into their particular records and their intuition and helping them to heal. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, if you can, I want to, because you've told a couple stories of the transformations that you've had with your clients. I would love to hear one of those.
Yeah. So, gosh, there's so many. One thing that I always tell people when they come in the door is that a lot of times people in this work get addicted to wanting to have these huge awakenings. And I always say the miracles are in the mundane. So the little things that you think are mundane or little things that don't matter are actually the things that add up to make you have the big ahas. So that's, part of it too, that as we move along, things will start to make sense as you're ready to hear it. Sometimes people's souls aren't ready to hear you're not ready to hear certain things at a certain time. One thing that's interesting, is that I had a woman, her name's, I'll just call her G. G came to me and she had gone to become a minister. So she was a minister and she's ministering in the church. And she started to feel like she wanted to teach different teachings of Jesus based not on the Bible, but the teachings that she felt in her heart and soul. And she had a lot of imposter syndrome and fear around separating and all of that from the church and everything. And so I'm the type of person that I'm completely neutral. So I am open to any and all expressions of religion and spirituality. And so I was able to walk her through it for her, what her needs were. And so this is an interesting example. She came to me and she said, I just have this awful imposter syndrome. I feel like I can't move out of it. I can't do anything because I am stuck in fear about judgment and what other people will think of me, my family, the people I went to ministry school with, the people at my church. And so we walked through a lot of that. And this is interesting because it kind of goes along with the perimenopause and menopause. And also it is an extreme example to make people understand what I see and how things that may not seem like they're connected at all are. So I saw an image, or I saw the word, something to do with breastfeeding. And so I said, that's interesting. And what I want to mention too is when you're doing spiritual work, a lot of times if you are trying to tap into becoming a practitioner, it's scary sometimes when you get something that doesn't, like, in my head, I'm thinking she's talking to me about imposter syndrome. What, you know what I mean? Like, breastfeeding, this has nothing to do with it. And you get scared to say something. I always tell people just say it anyways, because the person might be like, oh, I had so many issues with that. So I asked her, I said, I don't know what's going on, but your guides are showing me breastfeeding. Did you have any issues with that with your children? She said, actually, my children are grown, but I had the hardest time with my first son, with him latching and all this stuff. And I said, and she said, it made me feel like, and I was like an imposter. Like she wasn't like the mom, the right mom, the good enough mom to be able to nurture her child in that moment. And so it was a really interesting example because how the two connected, you wouldn't think would connect. You know what I mean? Imposter syndrome with breastfeeding. But she had that awareness. And even though her human self was like, that doesn't make sense, but okay. After that, she was able to do the work that she was able to do because the acknowledgement and awareness of that, even if on a cognitive level, she didn't do anything with it, in the energy of just knowing was able to, and that thing was able to go, oh, that's why, and release. So that's what I tell people when they're doing like Akashic sessions with me is sometimes you will come into a session, you'll get information that doesn't make sense in the moment. You don't need to do anything with it or even understand it because it will just work out as you move through your life naturally. And so I always check in 1 week, 2 weeks, because they'll be like, oh, this thing happened. I'm like, it's not an accident because, you've been like activated in a different way in the Akashic field and all sorts of things happen because of that. So yeah, that's kind of a weird example, but one of the many.
That's a great example though, because a lot of women suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And on many, moms, absolutely. Like business women or women in ministry. I love that example.
Yeah.
And I love to bringing up how a small thing can actually be like and it kind of goes back to like the childhood thing, but it bleeds into adulthood where we have an event, we make a decision about what that event meant.
Exactly.
And then whether or not that's true, we carry that with us and it could cause damage down the road that we don't even realize where it came from.
Yeah. And what you just said about like, we make a decision about what that meant to us, that registers in the Akashic field. So when I'm doing Akashic work, because it registered in the field, it created a sort of block. I don't really like to use the word block because that suggests we're not healed or there's something wrong. that's another thing we might get, that we might want to talk about, is that like people will come to me thinking like, I need to heal. I'm like, you are healed and whole. I'm not healing you. You're not, it's that we are looking at the things that are blocking you from seeing how healed you are. Right. So so let's say somebody has that understanding of like, oh, this is what this story means to me. Let's say breastfeeding or whatever. Like I'm not doing the right thing for my kid, or then it bleeds into other areas. As soon as you have that, go back and undo that belief and go, oh, it was because of this actually. Then that is able to like undo, the knot is able to untie, and then it affects now. So when I have people, a lot of people say you can't change the past. I'm like, you can't change the situations that happened, but you can go back in your mind's eye in a trauma-informed way, if it's a, intense sort of memory, and change your perception around it. Hug the inner child part of you that experienced it. And sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes lifetimes, if it's a particularly heavy thing. So, I just like what you said about that. Like when we make a belief about it, it stays there and we keep living our life, but it's still back there. So that's why with the Akashic work, it's really, they show me, people's guides show me those things. Like, what happened at this time? And so I have to like eke it out. What does this mean?
That's amazing. Because then you have that ability to kind of like, get there a little bit faster, because we don't, looking at ourselves. And that's what I was talking to about, like having a coach, a therapist, a practitioner, somebody who can help guide you through that process, because you don't see it yourself. You're too lost in your own dialogue to be able to pull that out. So having somebody to be like, well, what about that? And then they're like, oh.
Yeah. And I'm a completely neutral space.
Yeah.
Just completely neutral. Like I have gone through many years of having reactions to something that happened with a client, and then work through that to the point where I don't hold any judgment or anything. So even if a person comes to me and I say something and they get really resistant, I sit there and let them have their experience. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's so important to let the person have their experience, because whatever's coming up needs to be heard and seen. Right. So I'll never try to like say, well, think about it this way. You know what I mean? Because then that's kind of like trying to meddle with the way the person is in the moment. So the main thing for me with my work is like, how do I, and this is hard because sometimes with Akashic work, I will see, or even psychic or tarot or anything else, I can see sometimes 10 years into the future. And so a person may not be there yet or not understand. So that's why I always have to work kind of with my guides to have them connect people to me that are ready to hear certain things, or that are able to hear certain things, and just go, meh, I don't know what that means right now, but at some point I will, as opposed to trying to like crunch it and make it make sense, which I do too. It's very hard not to do that.
Yeah. Very hard. Yeah. Well, and that's not like part of us that needs to control to feel safe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about the midlife transition.
Yes.
And what have you noticed is coming up for that age group, and how is it different than any other age group?
The first biggest thing that comes up for me is that because I just experienced it, it made it easier for me to understand like what was needed for working with other people. Because I had a kind of coming to Jesus moment around it recently, where so from a young age, I was always like, age doesn't matter, until you start getting older. Then you're like, you're an idiot, 20-year-old Erin. Like, you know what I'm talking about? But then it starts to happen and you're like, oh, because I think for me, I had an understanding that like, oh, you have adolescence or you have this like hormonal change, but then that's it. It's like, no, it keeps happening as a woman over and over and over. And not only that, it happens every month. You know what I mean? Like, and so for me, I had to kind of experience it first to understand a little bit more about what it meant and how to help others through it. But what I think of it as is kind of like, if we're talking about the soul path, is that there are almost like rocks that we place in our path that we trip over. And the only way that we're able to learn the lessons from that is what I call like contrast. We need contrast or something that doesn't work or that's painful or uncomfortable in order to go, oh, something's off. So we can look at that and then like either heal or integrate all of the things around that. So, so the way I'm able to help with that is not only my own personal knowledge, but also to, like I said, be in neutral space to completely hold the person where they are. But also with the Akashic field, I'm able to work with their guides to show like why it happened now, what happened before that, to the lessons that are coming back around, and hopefully guide the person to go, oh, this is what I need to focus on or address. Because when we're going through, I know every woman's different, but for me, when I was going through and am going through perimenopause, it's like there's a lot of brain fog and not knowing what's going on. So to have like all these things in front of you, it could be this, it could be this, I don't know, and have that kind of like lack of knowing, it helps to be able to give that like guidance. And one more thing I'll mention with that is that what helps me as this kind of practitioner is that I'm able to put aside myself and like channel their guides. So this makes it easier for me because I can say it wasn't me. People can get mad and I'm like, your guides told me to tell you, so yell at them, you know? So, and it also makes it easy for me because I don't have to try to get involved or know. I just go, guides, what are you showing me? And then they tell me like, and show me. Mm-hmm. And so there's a whole lot of aspects that go into it, but that's kind of like what comes up when you ask that question. Yeah.
That is very, man, that's helpful as far as like practitioner to practitioner, like not getting too involved in them and not.
It's so hard not to, because you want to feel like they came to you, they're putting all their trust in you. And if something goes wrong with them, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to separate from that.
Yes. Yeah. It's, part of the reason why I'm stepping back from the hospital, because I have a lot of that where people come in and I'm like, you've been working on this for 40 years and you want me to fix it overnight. Okay.
And it's like, because you're an authority, and this is a part that's really hard, that people want answers and they feel like there's someone else out there that knows more than they do. And it's really hard in my line of, it's easier actually in my line of work because it's just me. It's not the hospital system and stuff, you know, or when people go to doctors, they're like, you got to have the answer. You're a doctor, right? For me, it's like, I work with the person and co-create with them. Like, does this feel right to you? Does this land for you? If not, okay, we'll put that to the side. How about this? You know what I mean? We're able to, and you can do that too, but it's a little more like, especially in Western medicine, it's like, we come in, we want the answer, give me that thing, and then it's done. It's like, that's not how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I really love about functional medicine, and what I'm going into now is it is more of a collaboration. And I feel like that's the way it should be.
It really should. I'm glad things are changing in that way too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more freedom now. People have their own clinics or have their own outside thing where it's not like you have to like get a doctor and do this in this way. Mm-hmm. And that's like the fortunate part of like systems falling apart. Like sometimes the system isn't good and it needs to fall apart in order to then be rebuilt the right way. But the falling apart part sucks.
Yeah. It's usually pretty painful for everyone involved. But yeah, that's true just in personal life too. Like, you know, having to have those pivot points or rock bottom. And sometimes you have to break it all down in order to build it back up again. And so it can actually be a gift, but it's hard to see that in the moment.
Yeah. Like I was saying, like the contrast, you need something like uncomfortable to come in and show you what's going on, or else you're just going to kind of keep going the same way for a long time. And another thing I want to bring up is like, and that's okay too. I have a lot of people that come to me, like the spiritual community, especially, is a lot of like, okay, this is happening. I want to heal that. This is wrong. And I need to like make it right. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's okay to be where you're at. You're a human. You know what I mean? Like if you want to go out and eat a burger and fries, come home and eat ice cream until you're like in bed, like that's, you're a human. Like, don't feel bad about that. You know, like, I'm not saying that make that your life thing, but you know, and so a big part of my practice is acceptance with where the person is now. So they don't feel like, I think what comes up for me a lot with people's guides that tell me is basically like, your belief that there's something wrong or unhealed creates the unhealed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I am guilty of that.
That creates I am too. This is why, Nicole, this is literally why I do this work, because it's for me first and then other people. Because every time I'm like, sometimes, and you know, as an entrepreneur, it's like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. It's just sometimes it's so hard because it's your own spiritual thing. You feel on your own sometimes. You have to know every part of business. You're like learning about business. It's just everything and your own path. And so it can help to do it yourself, because then you're always in the healing piece, but then it can be hard because then you're always in the healing.
Yeah. It does feel like there's really no end goal. It's gone, and then you come back again, apparently. So.
Yes. Well, that's why I say like try to be okay where you are now. Yeah. I did a little 5-minute meditation the other day. And isn't it so funny how sometimes you will like do this like 5-hour meditation or this, whatever it is. And actually the moments that you have are usually the quick little things. Like I did this 5-minute meditation after doing like 30-minute meditations for days, because I did a challenge. And it was just a 5-minute quick thing. And I had this huge awakening. It was Joe Dispenza. And it was called, I forget what it was called. It was just a 5-minute thing. And it like the title of it was like, you already have what you want. And I just closed my eyes, and it was a quick little thing that he led me into. And I pictured my highest self, or like this version of me that is just present and okay, you know? And he had us like picture where it is. And I was like, wait, it's me. It's not something in the sky or something else. Like I am it. And I just within 3 minutes was like, wow. Like, and now I'm still going to have ups and downs related to it. You know, I may tomorrow be like, no, I don't know. Yeah. That's how it goes too. But
yeah,
but it was really like, that's what part of what I'm teaching too. It's like the more that we get the healing and feel like we need to be healed, the more we're creating wounds. It's weird catch-22.
It is. It is. Well, and I love you're talking about too, because I talk about with just like the body health too. Like your body wants to heal. Like that's its normal state, is healed and whole. So we're just returning. And same thing like with the spirit and with the mind, you're just returning, and we return, and you're going to get pulled out because we live. we are existing on this plane. So it's going to continually pull us out. Then we just got to return. Yeah. And it's not about not ever getting out of that space, because it feels good to be in a nice, calm, peaceful space, but it's not that you are always there. It's that you're able to come back.
Yep.
And how quickly can you come back despite what's going on around you?
Yeah, that's what it is. The external pulls you out, you know, and it is, I call it like recognition, because it's like whenever I do a training or a workshop about unlocking your psychic gifts or activating your psychic gifts, I always call it like unlock or activate, which is the reality. They're already there. Yes. It's not like people will be like, I don't have any psychic gifts. I'm like, one of my mantras in my business is not only mantra, it's like one of my words that I use on my materials, which is everyone is psychic. Literally everyone. Like everyone and anyone is psychic. Some people use it, some people don't. Some people don't need to. Some, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean you have to like utilize it, but we all have gifts from birth, and things happen to us to make us forget. We try to be like everyone else. We don't want to be seen as weird or different. So we try to stay in the status quo and everything. And so the gifts, the being a medium, the connecting to spirit, to all of it, because it's all the same really, is already there. We're just peeling away the layers that are keeping us from recognizing that it's just like you said, that it's already in you. Yeah. It's amazing.
Your transition through midlife, what would you say is the hardest part?
The hardest part for me it's totally related to ego, which is I thought I knew, like, because of the work I do, like, oh, I'm on purpose. This is what I'm doing. Like A, B, and C, I had it all like worked out, figured out, you know? And then when it really hit me, like the perimenopause journey and everything, I was like, I don't know anything. And what's happening? I felt reborn. Like I was a baby, like, wow. Like, and so it was good because I had my own practice to like look to, but as we know, sometimes with our own practice, we can do it with other people. Yeah. But when it's for us, it's like, God, why? I don't know what's happening to me. And so it took me surrendering and relearning, coming in with a beginner's mind.
I love that. I
had to forget everything I had learned or seen, and go, something different is happening. So I need to approach it differently. Also, I'm so glad there are people like you out there, because I didn't know. You don't know when it's happening that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like and I'm so glad that I do work in spiritual realms, because I feel like sometimes I would just be going and not knowing, but I'll see a little thing or see a video you did or something, and it'll say something that I'm going through, and I'm like, oh, it's actually a perimenopause symptom. It's not just something that happened. You know what I mean? Like there was a funny video, I think you might have shared it, or one of my friends who's going through peri or something, but it was like this woman who was like talking to her kids, and she's like, go do the dishes. And then she's like, and they're like, clean our room. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, go to timeout or something. She's like, yeah. It was just funny because it was like, and I realized, because I have been doing that more lately, where I'm like, I'm really good with words. I have the gift of gab. I'm an Irish person. We never stop talking. And so I started doing that, where I was talking to someone, I'd be like, and I'm like, what is happening? And I just thought it was just like, and then started watching and then perimenopause videos about like the brain fog and the not. I was like, okay. So it was a kind of mixture of things that made me like realize.
Yeah. Well, and coming around to accepting things so accepting, but also having people who are educating, so you know what's happening, so that you don't, like, you come from a great background, you have those tools in your tool belt of I can accept where I am, and I'm going through this journey, and we're going to work on that. But a lot of people don't have that skill. They don't know that it's okay to be where you are right now, that you may not feel great, but there's nothing necessarily broken, that you're not totally screwed.
Yeah. It's not, there's always, that's the thing with the human experience. There's always the next day. You could be in complete breakdown, and then there's always renewal and hope. It's like something will happen. I always call it the 2-week rule. When my clients are like really in the like depths, I'm like, just wait 2 weeks. Like literally I'm going to be like, what happened 2 weeks ago? And you'll be like, what?
Right.
Now, this isn't to dismiss their pain or whatever, but it's kind of a joke that, like, it's a thing. Sit with it, be with it, but it's also going to pass.
Yes. Yeah, because everything does. It too shall pass.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the type of clients that come to you, what are some things that you look for, or like red flags that you say would be something that they would need to, get your help with? And how would someone know if they're ready for that type of work?
So what I say with, like, whether it's Akashic Records or, this kind of work, is it finds you. So I have done so much work with my own guides, with God, with Jesus, with spirit, that I do that work energetically on my own. I say, God, send me the people that need to be sent to me, support them in understanding that, or in finding me. And because I have so many people on like TikTok, especially, I'll just do a video like every day, every few days, and tag with Akashic Records. And a lot of people will be like, I've never heard of this in my life. And you came across my For You page or something. When your soul has this kind of plan for you, it will lead you, but we also have free will. Mm-hmm. So you might be led to me or another kind of modality, but your free will may say, nope, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? And so it's a dance, right? Yeah. So I personally work with my own kind of energy. Also, I don't know if anyone else does human design or if you've heard of human design. No. Human design is like, basically it's kind of like a mix of astrology and something else, but you kind of put in your birth date and everything else, your birth time and all that. And it gives you your sort of like your design as a human, like how you best manifest, etc. So my sort of like manifestation style, as it is in human design, is a generator. And what that means, basically, it's different for each person, but for me, what it means is I generate the energy inside of me on my own. And then people, when they're ready, feel that and magnetize toward it. So the more that I go out and try to like find it, or that doesn't mean I don't market. You have to market and work. But as I'm marketing and doing this and that, I also step back and say, God, you're in control. And I trust that you'll send me who I need to be sent. So that's a big piece of what I do. And every practitioner is different in that way. But also and this is something that people at home can get something out of, I think, which is you can create rules and requirements with your own guides, whether you're a Christian and believe in God, whether you are Mother Nature is your spirit, whether it's just like the all there is or energy around us. There you can work with your guides or your soul guides to have the life you want to have. So for example, if I want to have certain clients come to me, I can say, Spirit, please send me people that are ready to do the work. Because a lot of times, somebody will come to you that's like just not ready. And it's almost like, why did this person come to me? Was it teaching me something? And it's not to say that like, that's it's a bad person going through that. It's just sometimes you have to be in energetic alignment with the people you're with. And so the more that I worked with my own guides to say, send me people that are ready, send me people that want to like do the work. A lot of people will come to me and want like one session and leave, which is fine. But I've sort of felt like I want to do more work with people in like 3 or 6 month containers. Mm-hmm. So I started working with my guides to say, hey, send me people that want to dig in and really do a process or consistency. Yeah. So anyways, it's a long answer to the question, but
no, that's great. I think that's really pertinent to, female entrepreneurs out there and any entrepreneur when we're talking about like our niche, basically defining who it is that we're talking to. When we're talking to the audience, like we're thinking of one person in particular.
Yes.
That is our ideal person.
I love that. The whole avatar thing, that helps me a lot. Cause I have one client like that. That's like, we've worked together for like 10 years and she's always coming back and we work together so well. And so every time somebody asks me about my ideal client, boom, I think of her, Yeah. And it helps so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It helps them too. The people that need to come to you because they don't know, is this right for me?
Yes. Yeah. So when you're able to really define that of who I'm here to serve, because we can't serve everybody. That's just not possible. And the more we try and be for everyone, then we're for no one.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Too big, too large.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and being in that energetic alignment, because, and I've gone through that journey too. I'm sure you've experienced this as you're growing as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a woman, and, growing into your age and everything too. We go through our stages. And so we're changing along with those people that we're here to help.
Yep.
So whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you're here to do something. You're here to help somebody. And that somebody changes as you do.
Yeah, exactly. I call it like co-creation, but also it's like for me, it's this delicate balance between meeting the person where they are and still being an authority, a loving authority, that doesn't say this is what you're going through and this is what you need to do, but says that meets the person where they are at their level, holds space for where that is, and gives invitations. You know what I mean? Because the invitation is open-ended. The person gets to decide if they want to do that or not. Yeah. So I'm really big with that, with consent, with letting people have their own path. And I tell people, I'm like, I'm not here to tell you everything like to do. I'm here to show you what your guides are like showing me is next for you, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. When some people get weird about the word psychic, because I actually like to use the word psychic because sometimes it forces people to go, what does that mean? You know what I mean? I like to use it because for me, what it means is not, I can see into your future and tell what you're going to do, right? Because you have free will. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. I'm able to basically see your sort of soul blueprint and all of the different sorts of options in front of you. And I'm able to see by where you are right now, which one you're likely to choose. Right. So for me, psychic is probably based on where you are right now and what's going on. This is like what I see. But I always let people know you have free will. So it's your decision whether you want to go down that path or not. But this is what I see happening. And so that I like that because it gives a little bit more open energy for that co-creation to happen. Yeah. To let people know like, hey, we're all here on this human journey. I don't know any better than you do. I may because I have more experience doing this work, but we're all walking each other home, like they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and each person kind of, like I do the same thing with my women. I'm like, you know your body better than I do.
Yep.
And I can help guide you and I can help with education and all that, but I'm not living in your body. I don't know what you're feeling day to day. I can't be there with you all the time. So like, let's do this together and provide education on how you can basically be self-sustaining.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the idea.
Like, I want to help you to where you don't need me anymore.
Yes.
And there's this healer I follow that I really love. And she was talking about, she goes, we call ourselves healers. It's not really what we are. We don't heal you. Mm-hmm. And she said, in my case, because she does a lot of karmic block releases, past life, like where something happened, or let's say you got like stabbed on the field of battle, and in this lifetime you have an issue in that same place, right? How do we like reconcile that, release it? So she goes through, she says, what I do is you show up to me, you ask me about a certain thing you're experiencing, I clear all the karmic stuff around it, and then what that does is clears the kind of cobwebs so that you're able to then heal yourself. Mm-hmm. So I'm not telling you anything's wrong. You're just saying what feels an issue. I help you release it on different dimensions and levels. And then in order for you to then have the capacity to heal yourself. And I just love that. I really think that's beautiful.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And so true.
It is.
Yeah. I think that's important for us to make sure we're conveying to the people too, because they again come to us saying, fix me, I'm broken. And it's like, no.
Yes.
You're not broken.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Unless you literally have a broken bone, we can fix that.
Yeah. But exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. The body is so, like you're talking about, the body is so fascinating how it heals itself. Mm-hmm. And it's not just one way or the other. I think a lot of times people get into this whole like, oh, this woo woo crap or whatever. And it's like, it's a mixture. It's holistic. It's the whole body. So I always, when my guides show it to me as like an ink cartridge on a printer, where it's like cyan, yellow, magenta, and some are high and low. Mm-hmm. I see it as like spiritual, energetic, mental, physical, all the pieces of us. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I'm able to see, it's like your guides show me that, and I'm able to see which levels are low and help you neutralize it. Yeah. It doesn't mean all of it has to be at plus 10 because we need to be perfect. It's how do we get into this frequency where it feels like comfortable and neutral in my body versus high highs or low lows. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep. Some people like to chase those though.
Oh yes. I know. And that's what keeps us in business. Really.
This is true.
It's like
job security.
Yeah. And they keep thinking, it's like, okay, how do I keep working with you, but also, let you know that there's nothing wrong. And really it's just helping people understand that whatever they're choosing, whatever they're doing is part of the human experience, and not to judge themselves for it, because we're all, I think, and this is actually the kind of like, I love social media for a lot of reasons, but I think the downside of it is, especially if you're an entrepreneur or an influencer or want to be, you see all these people out there saying, this is what I do, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so we get all of this programming, whether it's unconscious, subconscious, or conscious right in your face, advertisements, like what we need to do to be A, B, or C. Everything's telling us all the time, you're not good enough and you need to do A, B, or C to change that so you look better, feel better, do better. It's like, let's so for me, I don't know about you, I feel like at the heart of what I do, it's undoing programming. Or releasing, like, because what it is people come to me with, I think I need to do this, or I'm wrong, or whatever, and it's like I hear you, and
yeah. From my side, it's almost more of a not letting you think that everything is fine when it's not fine. So that whole like pushing it down, suppressing things that are actually wrong.
Yep.
Because that's a perimenopause thing, a menopause thing, that women are, gaslit and go to their doctor and told that, oh, well, too bad, you're just getting old, or that's just depression, we'll give you this, oh, you're just stressed because of whatever, like, and not recognizing that this is actually perimenopause that it's related to. So kind of having that awakening. But I do, like it's such a fine line to walk, and to make sure that we are remembering that we are doing this out of service. Like, yes. And because I really struggled with that coming into being an entrepreneur and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, it kind of feels icky. But when you think about it, and the fact that I'm here to serve, and if I have something that has transformed lives, I should be shouting it from the rooftops and attracting the right people who it will actually serve, and not just trying to, like, you know, do to everybody because I'm trying to make money or anything like that. So it is walking that fine line, but recognizing too that there are some people out there that are definitely out to do that. So we have to be mindful of that. And they're pretty loud, and they make some pretty audacious claims. And you see them and you're like, wow.
And people get addicted to the whole like 11K views and you know what I mean? 500K this. And I do it too. You know, like I'm not reaching enough people, or I don't have a good enough following, or this person has how did they do that? And getting mad and jealous and all that, you know, it happens. And how do I have a great example of that. There's this coach that I follow. I love, she's amazing. She is so powerful. And she's like, you know, I think makes like 50K a month or something like that. It's because she says, how she says it is depth, not width. She goes, I want to work with a small amount of people deeply.
Yes.
I don't want to go into a Zoom room with 5,000 people. I want to go into a Zoom room with like 15 people. And I want us to work together intimately to change each other's lives, because that's going to crop out and change millions of people's lives, instead of what we think is the opposite. Like, oh, I need to have 100,000 views because that will affect the most people. Not really, because a lot of those people are just going like this. And in 7 seconds, they have forgotten what you said. And so that's part of it. And also like what you said about like, feeling icky about marketing. Because that brings up money to me, because it is like, you know, you're having to like sell this stuff, and it feels like, I don't know, it feels weird sometimes with that. But the book, You Are a Badass, or You Are a Badass at Making Money.
I love her.
Yeah.
Jen.
Jen. She's awesome. But one of her quotes that I love the most, and the word money can be replaced with anything, which is, she says, we need the most compassionate people in the world to have the most money. We need the people that are the healers, the supporters of healers, the people that have this compassion and want to share it with the world. We need them to have the most money, because in this world, that's how it is. Money talk, like that's what gets you. So it's like, when I have people that are like either afraid to charge or put their like gifts out there, is that we need you. The world needs you. You know what I mean? And it is hard to put ourselves out there, but that helped me a lot when I was going through my kind of like my own imposter syndrome, you know. Why me? Who me? Yeah.
Who am I to do this? So give us some tactical things that we can do to, like, let's start with imposter syndrome. So like, what are like 2 or 3 things that we can do to kind of work on our own imposter syndrome?
So I think the biggest thing is to, and I know I keep coming back to this, but being okay where you are now. It's a part of, I'll say it this way. People out there, the way that they see that they need help or support from you, or that you can be in service, is for you to be like them. So it's kind of like shadow work. Like there's shadow work I did around imposter syndrome, where it's like, take the word, well, in this case, this process I did was, the coach said, imagine you're on stage and there's 1,000 people in front of you. What's the one word where if someone called you that, you would like die and melt on stage? Like fraud, or you did this and it was wrong. Like, what is the thing? Most people said fraud, imposter syndrome, right? Like, you're a fraud. Like, why are you up there? Like, and that's, you know, related to imposter syndrome. So if we use that, basically what this coach was saying was, take the word that we think is the shadow word, the bad thing that we are. Why is that a gift? Why is that actually supporting us? So if you were to say, because at first, the first thing is like, oh, imposter syndrome is supporting me. How? And in this work, sometimes we need to almost like be an imposter or be a fraud first. And not the word fraud, like, you know, frauding people, but like sometimes we need to not know what we're doing in order to learn how to do what we want to do. Does that make sense? It's kind of weird, but like, and in my case, when I did that process, my word was damaging, because I had been damaged and damaged other people in my like drug addiction and everything. I was afraid that when I coached people or supported people, I would damage them. Like that was my shadow word. I was afraid that they would say, I came to you and you said A, B, or C to me, and it made me suicidal, or it made like I went straight to the extreme.
Oh yeah.
I went straight, and it caused a divorce, or it caused me to have a mental breakdown. So, and it was because of my own experience with being damaged or damaging others when I was an addict, And so I did work around that. And even though it was hard to take the word damaged and say, oh, it's a good thing I'm damaging people. Yeah, but what I turned it into, what a friend of mine helped me turn it into was, you need to damage people's perceptions.
Yeah.
And their beliefs about who they are in order to get to that seed of like what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to almost help them break apart who they think they are, AKA damaging them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about looking at either imposter syndrome or something, some of the ways to do that, and I know it's hard, is to think of, how is this a gift? How is this actually helping me? Another one might be selfish. Like somebody's calling you selfish. Oh, you're selfish. Like you blah, 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 whatever it is. Like the shadow aspect of selfish could be, I'm selfish because I'm taking care of myself now in a way that I never did, or a way that when I grew up with my parents, I didn't have that. They weren't taking care of me or whatever. So those are kind of some examples of how to kind of make those things work for us as opposed to against us.
That is super powerful. And selfish is one thing that really comes up a lot, especially for women, especially in like this time period where a lot of women have families, careers, and then perimenopause hits, and all of a sudden, like, you just can't function like you used to. You can't push yourself like you used to.
Yep.
But taking the time out for yourself, you have that voice in your head, whether it's yours, whether it's how your parents were, or your perception of how things were, going back to that, of the story that you told yourself, that's not the standard. And if you can't hold that standard, that makes you bad.
Yep.
That's so hard.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, especially if it was in childhood or something that was embedded or conditioned or programmed, and sometimes those things are always going to be there, and we just break through layers of it as we go, and it gets easier and easier over time. It's the part of the reason it's always with us is to, it's weird. My guys are showing me like an image of when like somebody, if you're a patient and you get like little medication comes out in like intervals.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like you're getting to a place where you've gone through certain levels, and then there's like another thing that kind of like poke to make you go through the next level and the next one. It's not to like, make your life a living hell or whatever, because sometimes it can be like, why is there like always another layer or another level? But it's to help us see how brilliant and amazing we are. That's what I really love about Akashic work too. The mantra really in Akashic work is how you as a human can see the light of your soul and how amazing and brilliant it is, because we're so used to just beating ourselves up so much.
Yeah.
And so that's when I'm really, really, so I'm doing a workshop in a few weekends here in the Tri-Cities about Akashic Records and helping people open their own records. So because with me, I either have people, it's funny, I either come to people that come to me and they're like, I don't want to get the answers. I want you to give them to me. And I'm like, great. Like, I get that people just want psychic reading sometimes. I want you to give me the reading. And so I indulge them with the reading. And then another group of people that come to me are the ones that are like, I like the readings and I want to get those, but I also want I also want to do it myself. So I help people develop their own intuition so that, again, they don't need me, but also so they trust themselves. Like, that's the number one thing in my business, is how to help people trust that what I'm feeling is true and right. And how to show up for that version of myself in the moment. And so I lost my train of thought, but yeah. That's the Irish thing. I'm like, wait, what was I saying? It's like, Erin, shut up.
Yeah, because we were talking about being selfish and
yes.
taking care of yourself and everything. And something that struck me when you were talking about learning how to trust your own intuition. Speaking of another time, women get gaslit, not just by their providers, and some women, like not all of them, and not all providers, of course. We have very wonderful providers too. I want to make that clear. But past relationships, a time when what that brought up for me was when I was in a relationship with somebody and I caught him cheating on me. And that just literally the world fell out from underneath me.
Yep.
But then the hardest part was trusting myself again, because it was like, how did I not see that? Why did I let that happen?
And then of course the first thing we do is, it's my fault. Like, how did I
cause
we turn it away to you instead of the person that is cheating on you? Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah. I could see a lot of that being part of that work too, is being able to because that took a while for me to be able to trust myself again and be like, no, I do know. And now I'm able to help. Like, I helped a girlfriend through her loss and everything. And she was like, I just can't. And I'm like, you will.
Yep.
You will.
Yep.
Like, and you're going to take your own time to do it. Like, there's no timeline, and I'm just here for whenever you get. And now she is through it, and she's like, oh my God, you were so right. I was like, only because I had to go through it myself.
That's why you need community and other people that have been through it that go, yep. And just to hold space for hearing it. It doesn't need to like be fixed or solved. It's like, we just got to be there with it. And, and yeah, the self-trust thing, and it is, especially in spiritual, like let's say workshops or the spiritual work, it's like the trusting self journey is hard, because that's the biggest question I get is, what's me and what's my guides? I don't know the difference. And so one thing I always say, which is a kind of tip to everyone else, is that if you sit there and you set an intention to connect with your spirit guides or God or whatever about what you want to do, everything that comes through in that session is your guides. Even if you have your grocery list coming up in your head, oh, that's me. No, you are in a conversation with your guides. Everything you get is spiritual, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like, because I think we tend to think like, oh, they're telling me in the fifth dimension, I was a, flower child and I need to do ABC. We kind of get in this, like, we need to hear these like crazy stories, when really it's like, it's why do we tend to think that our own mind or what we're saying to ourselves isn't our spirit, isn't our guidance? You know what I mean? And so I help people kind of separate the two, because especially if we've experienced trauma or if you've experienced the cheating, it's like, how do you then move on and not trigger back to that moment when you're trying to trust yourself again? So it takes the time, and it also takes the the practicing it consistently over time to like separate out and to learn what's your trauma, you know what I mean? Because there's so many different like responses that we have. Yeah.
But coming back to that, you're okay right here where you're supposed to be, and you're going to get to the next level when you're supposed to be there.
And again, with the shadow work thing, it happened for some reason. There's some gifts in there to help you like look at yourself in different ways, to help you. And when I say look at yourself, I also want to make clear, because I think another thing in like spiritual communities is all about mirroring. Like, oh, this person did that. What do I need to learn about myself? It's all about me. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes people just do shitty things. It's okay to like say, you suck, you did that, and it hurt me, so let's not also make everything about like, well, what is mirroring back to me is a childhood thing. Yes. And you get to still have your anger, your pain or whatever. It doesn't make you bad. You're working through it. So
I love that too. Like that, some people just suck.
It's like sometimes that person's just a a-hole. But and that's part of their journey too. But that helps with that kind of self-gaslighting, to go like, hey, I made that, this person made me feel that way, and I get to honor those feelings. And this happens a lot with women. About like, we can't be angry. We can't be like, if we have any anger or rage, we're like crazy. It's like, actually we have like this powerful, like goddess fire energy inside of us that if we don't unleash it, that's part of our power, not in an unhealthy way, but expressing anger or feeling anger or getting it out in a healthy way is so important. As like working out and everything, you have to express it.
Or else,
or else.
Off. Well, and getting back to the holding space for each other and allowing, I think women are so good at that, and that's why it's so important for like us to have women that we can talk to, that we can come together with. I love my men in my life, but they are fixers.
Yes.
We must fix things. And they get so stressed out when they can't fix it. And it's so hard, because you're like, God bless your soul. But
I know.
I don't need to be fixed right now. I just need to be here and go through this.
Yep.
So having women like you, like our group that we have that we meet with.
So important. It's like, even just sitting, having coffee, even if you don't talk about our businesses or whatever, it's like, we need that to be just in the space of that. And it is funny because the masculine and men and everything have this great way of fixing things. So it's like sometimes as a woman, we kind of have to like, okay, what do I need that would be great to be fixed? Bring that to them. And then the stuff like, so it is good for our own communication needs to be like, hey, I'm going to tell you this. I just, just tell me this sucks afterwards. That sucks afterwards or something. Yeah. It kind of sucks sometimes to have to like tell this is how I need you to react to me. Cause then it takes away but nobody knows how you're feeling or what you need. So sometimes you need to say like, hey, and that helps with communication as well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're not in each other's heads, so we have to like give each other some grace, and especially men and women, we don't always like. Again, that chemistry's a little different,
and beautiful too. It really is the places where I think it's that Brene Brown. She was talking about how her and her husband, like when she gets home, she'll be like, from 0 to 100, she'll be like, I'm at 20, I can't take on anything else. And he'll be like, that's great. I'm at 70. Like, tell me what you need from me, or I will let you go. Like, I got it. I'm the rock this time. So they kind of like evaluate, tell each other where they are so that right away they know, don't mess with me right now. Or I need you right now. Or if they're both at 20%, okay, let's go off and do our self-care stuff. Or how can we support each other in raising the vibration? Or we don't want to do any of the raising vibration. We just want whatever. Yeah. That is kind of a quick, easy way to be like, cool.
Yeah. We understand each other.
Without all the too much communication, because then it can be like, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. And then overwhelm.
Yep.
It's amazing. So where are we at on time? We're right at an hour. We're doing great. Oh,
perfect.
And we've got hello everyone.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's so funny because I had this like moment when we were talking. I'm like, what if something happened and like our audio's not on, and we've done this whole hour and people are like on the chat saying what's happening. I just like, it's weird.
No, Betty's just hearting us all over the place. Thank you, Betty. We love you.
That's our girl.
Well, you know what, if things go wrong as they did with TikTok, we just reset and
exactly keep going,
keep moving forward, because that's all we can ever do.
And the next time we'll know like how to like stop that from happening, whatever it was.
Yeah, that was weird, but that's okay. That's what needed to happen today.
Exactly.
So where can people find you?
So my name is Erin Inspirational everywhere. A lot of people will say Erin Inspirational, and I just say it's a play on words. So it's like inspirational with an ER at the beginning. So Erin Inspirational on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, those are like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are the big ones. And erinspirational.bio.link is where I have like my little kind of link tree. And also this weekend, if anybody here is local in the Tri-Cities, I am doing it's not this weekend. I said this weekend, the weekend of the 29th and the 30th of this month, March. I'm doing an Akashic Records class. So it's 5 or 6 hours each day. There are breaks, but it is it's like a practitioner course. So you do leave with a certificate as a practitioner of Akashic Records. So you can do readings for yourself and other people. I usually say after 30 days, give yourself 30 days to play and do free exchanges and stuff. And then you can start charging. So this is for people who either want to just learn about the Akashic Records and what they are, utilize them to understand, like, where am I? Where's my spirit guides? How do those connect? How do I get information? What is my intuition? It's a really 101 class about how to connect. I just use the modality of Akashic Records to be the structure wherein the connection happens. It's really basic in the beginning and easy to understand. And so it's for people that either want to deepen their intuition, that want to, and Betty's going to be there, I'm so excited, who want to deepen their intuition, who want to actually use it as a modality in their business and make maybe a side gig or extra money that way. Or just want to, talk to their soul guides. And what I always say is it's kind of like an activation. When you say yes to a workshop or something like that, it tells your guides or whatever's outside of you that, like, I'm ready to take the next step. And then things externally start happening to take you to the next step. So it's kind of this beautiful co-creation with your guides. So I'm doing that. And it is in 2 weeks, I think. So it's going to be a new moon eclipse. So it's going to be right on the eclipse. So it's a time for new beginnings and discovering things about yourself. So it's going to be a real fun class. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it'll be local in Kennewick. So if anyone's local and wants to take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to put that in the notes.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been awesome. This conversation was great. I think we had cool intersection to a lot of different topics.
Yes.
And if anyone wants to ask any questions, please put them in the comments, or I'm sure you do too, but I have like a little clarity call. If anyone wants to just talk about the Akashic Records and how they can help, I'm able to just do a free little call to say like, okay, maybe we can do a session, or it sounds like a package would be best for you or whatever.
Yeah. Discovery call type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right.
Cool.
Definitely follow her. I love seeing her stuff, especially over on TikTok. I see her all the time, and she's in there and she's talking and she's answering questions. So you can go in and ask questions.
Yes. On the comments, just put in any questions about manifestation, about Akashic Records and what they mean, about a situation you had in your life. So I can say, oh, this is why that happened. So any questions I love to answer. And I love to do sort of like suites of questions. So someone once asked a question about free will. And so all of a sudden I had like 10, like a bunch of videos in a row because there's so many subtopics within that topic.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just this really great place to be able to connect. So
yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
any questions?
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.